My name is Adam, and this is my story. A story about how a man who meant nothing became the only thing standing between humanity and nothing. I wasn't chosen because I was strong or special. I was chosen because I had nothing left to lose. Don't judge me. Just listen and decide for yourself what I became. If you're ready, let's begin. Later, everyone asked the same question. How did we not see it? The world wasn't blind. We had infrared surveillance scanning for missile launches, gravitational anomaly detectors monitoring orbital drift, deep space observatories measuring microlensing distortions. We could detect an asteroid the size of a truck millions of kilometers away. We could track debris smaller than a coin circling the planet at Mach 20. We were not unprepared. And yet, the monoliths passed through all of it. No acceleration curve, no thermal bloom, no ionized wake, no Doppler shift. They did not push against space. They did not burn through atmosphere. They did not displace air. They did not disturb magnetic fields. They did not reflect. They did not absorb. They did not scatter. It was as if they weren't objects, but they cast shadows. It was as if they weren't moving, but they changed position. Scientists later called it passive transit, a body with mass that refused to interact. Even stranger, their vectors were deliberate, not ballistic, not orbital decay, not free fall. They followed lines, invisible lines, lines we did not draw. For weeks, theoretical physicists debated the same terrifying idea. What if gravity wasn't acting on them? What if they were editing it? Atmospheric entry should create violence, compression waves, plasma sheathing, thermal ablation. Instead, nothing. The sky darkened, not dimmed, darkened, as if light itself bent away. Weather satellites glitched. Pressure maps flickered. Air traffic control lost calibration. For 17 seconds, Earth did not understand itself. And then, they were there. The first footage was unstable. A shaking phone camera. A breath too loud in the microphone. A voice breaking between laughter and panic. What is that? Is this some kind of projection? Is this a weapon? The human brain rejects the unknown. At first, we assumed it was fake, until 10,000 angles showed the same thing, until every continent saw one, until denial became impossible. Within an hour, every screen on Earth displayed black geometry. Markets halted. Governments convened emergency sessions. Defense networks raised alert levels. Missile defense systems recalibrated. No one fired. Because you can't fire at what doesn't exist on your screens. Every expert interview ended the same way, with the same answer. We don't know. And that phrase, from people who built certainty for a living, spread faster than fear. Deserts were left untouched. So were the oceans. No empty tundras, no silent plains. They chose density, the pulse of cities, Times Square, Shibuya Crossing, the center of Paris, intersections where thousands pass each minute, where movement never truly stops, where the world overlaps itself. They did not descend violently. There was no impact, no collision, no shattering concrete. They arrived, and the ground did something stranger than breaking. It yielded, not cracked, not crushed. Structural scans returned readings no engineer could explain. The material beneath each monolith remained structurally intact. No compression damage, no fractures, no molecular displacement. Sensors detected stress, but found no strain, as if force had been acknowledged but never applied, as if the Earth had recognized their presence and adjusted. Stone did not resist. Steel did not bend. Matter did not protest. It parted, as though instructed to make room. And then, as if nothing extraordinary had occurred, the cities continued breathing around them. Laboratories mobilized within days. Task forces formed behind sealed doors, not for study, for containment of uncertainty. Material scientists began with the obvious: microabrasion sampling, contact tests, surface interaction. Diamond-tipped drills met resistance and lost their edge in seconds. Not shattered, not deflected, simply rendered dull. High-energy lasers were calibrated, focused, amplified. Their beams destabilized on contact. Coherence collapsed, as if the light itself refused to remain aligned. Spectroscopy offered no comfort, no emission spectrum, no absorption line, no decay signature. The instruments returned data, but none of it described matter. No atomic lattice, no measurable electron distribution, no definable structure. The scans suggested presence, but not composition. A report began circulating quietly through the physics community. Not publicly, not officially, just forwarded, quoted, whispered. This object does not occupy space in a way we understand. That sentence spread carefully, like something fragile, because cutting it proved nothing, heating it proved nothing, mapping it proved nothing. Every model collapsed under its own assumptions. Simulations failed not with errors, but with silence. One senior researcher, after weeks without sleep, submitted a final note before resigning. It was only a single paragraph. If this is matter, then our definition of matter is incomplete. People approached. Some brought flowers, some brought flags, some brought cameras, some brought religion. Priests called it a sign. Influencers called it a brand opportunity. Conspiracy forums called it confirmation. Some screamed, some knelt, some just stood there, some reached out as if it could feel them, some whispered prayers, some demanded answers, some tried to touch it, others refused to even look, because fear doesn't look the same on everyone. Some saw salvation, some saw invasion, some saw nothing at all. Just a thing that shouldn't exist, and that was enough. Groups began to form, not by country, not by language, by belief. The believers, the deniers, the observers, the ones who said, "Do not interfere," and the ones who said, "It must be destroyed." Arguments turned into shouting. Shouting turned into silence. Because the monolith did nothing. It didn't react, didn't respond, didn't acknowledge. And somehow, that was worse. People started projecting. Meaning, intent, purpose. Some built shrines, some threw stones. Some waited for it to speak. Some feared it already had. Because sometimes when something arrives that large, it doesn't need to move. It doesn't need to act. It just needs to be there, and everything else begins to break around it. You don't know whether to run or worship, or become something else entirely. Then came the barriers, steel fences, armed patrols, drones and holding patterns overhead. Emergency powers were invoked. Approach radius, restricted. Touching, prohibited. Study, classified. The message was calm. For your safety. But safety implies understanding, and we understood nothing. Months passed. The monoliths did not move. They did not pulse. They did not speak. They stood. Markets reopened. Traffic resumed. People adapted. Humans adapt to everything, even the end of certainty. My life had ended long before this. Not in fire, not in tragedy, loud enough for the news. In erosion, slow, silent. Before the monoliths arrived, I had already stopped participating. Everyone was looking upward. I was looking sideways, at the arguments, at the fear, at the opportunism, at the way people filmed instead of helped. Some shouted, some applauded, some ran, but no one was holding anyone else. People weren't evil, they were disconnected, and I felt closer to the monolith than to any of them. I stole, yes, because I was hungry, but hunger was just the surface, a thin excuse, something simple enough to understand, something human. It wasn't about money. It was never about money. It was about crossing a line and realizing there was nothing on the other side. No guilt, no fear, no weight, just silence. The kind of silence that had been growing inside me long before that night. The register drawer slid open. That soft, mechanical click, louder than it should have been. The clerk's hands trembled, not violently, just enough. Enough to remind me that he was still connected, still reacting, still human. Mine didn't, not even a flicker. I noticed that, and that's when I understood something was wrong. Not with the situation, with me. I avoided his eyes, not because I was afraid of him, but because I was afraid of what I wouldn't feel. Because if I saw myself reflected there, panic, guilt, hesitation, I might remember what I used to be. I might hesitate, and hesitation felt more dangerous than anything I was doing. So I focused on the motion instead. The drawer, the bills, the weight of them in my hand. Real, tangible, unlike everything else lately. Unlike the sky, unlike that thing, the monolith. Ever since it appeared, something shifted, not outside, inside, like a boundary dissolved, like a rule quietly erased. I didn't want to hesitate, because hesitation meant there was still a line. And if that line still existed, then I had already crossed it, and there was no going back. Getting caught, escaping, living, they felt mathematically equivalent. Outcome variance, different settings, same emptiness. I ran into rain. Neon lights fractured across wet asphalt. Sirens cut through the air. People shouted, footsteps behind me. But it felt distant, like a memory already fading. Ahead, chaos. Protesters pushing barricades, security shouting commands, cameras flashing. They wanted to touch it, to prove it was real, to feel something real. I slipped between them. No one stopped me. No one saw me. Then I saw it up close. The surface was darker than black. Not reflective, not absorbing, just absent. Standing before it, I felt something. Not fear, not awe, recognition. It stood outside the system. So did I. The noise faded. Gunshots cracked behind me. People fell back. Security forces shouted. But the closer I got, the quieter the world became, like stepping underwater. It didn't feel like I was moving toward it. It felt like it was letting me come closer. Like the distance between us was never real. As if it had been waiting. Not for someone. For me. And the closer I got, the less I felt. No fear, no doubt. Just silence. I raised my hand. No destiny, no prophecy, no courage, just inevitability. I had nothing left. And for the first time, that felt like permission. Contact. No flash, no explosion, no sound. And still, everything moved. The world snapped backward. Bodies thrown like they weighed nothing, but it didn't come from outside. It hit from within. Not force, something deeper, meaning, dense, overwhelming. Data flooded in. Not language, not images, patterns, structures, connections between things I had never seen as connected. Time folding, probability bending. I wasn't being shown the universe. I was being shown scale. My body remained upright, but I was expanding. Memories surfaced. Regret, anger, loss. They rose and then disintegrated. Small, insignificant, like static in a larger signal. Later, they would call it first contact, a clean phrase, clinical, containable. But that wasn't what it was. It wasn't contact. It was initiation. It wasn't arrival. It was alignment. They didn't come to speak to humanity. They came to speak to something within it. And I answered, beginning.